this is module 2.2. The last time we met, we tackled on the different factors affecting the learner's diversity, where we found out actually that there are three main factors affecting the diversity of the learners in our class. The very first one that we tackled on was socioeconomic status of our students. And then we moved to their learning styles. And the third one were the exceptionalities, wherein we are going to, because of mainstreaming, we are going to meet different kinds. You are going to meet different kinds of students, and some of these students are special. They have special needs. They have exceptionalities. Eventually, we need to learn their history. How did these kids in our class develop? These theories should be related in the understanding how did they develop and how they came to be when you look at them already in the classroom. Because these students do have history and they went through development. We need to understand the process that they went through so that we can eventually get the motivation, so that their focus, their attention, their interest, and then eventually the learning is going to take place. How do learners learn best? How do you think the learners learn best? The emphasis there is how are we going to make the students learn best? Hitting on the objectives. So that's going to be our goal. In relation to the learner's development, I would like to ask the class, who among you here smokes? Of course, I wouldn't know the answer. You can answer that anywhere you are right now, or you can just answer that in your mind. Who among you here have aggressive behavior? Who among you here have confusion when it comes to your gender? The follow-up question to the previous questions would be, are they affecting your learning? Did you have learning difficulty because of your aggressive behavior and you don't even know where it came from? So let's try to find that out while we're learning on the theories with the students in our mind. We can also learn and look into ourselves. All right, so the very first theory is from Sigmund Freud. According to Sigmund Freud, people, or we, or the individual, the learners, go through stages of psychosexual development. Oral, that is from birth to 1 year. Anal, that is 1 to 3 years. And then phallic, 3 to 6 years. Latency, from 6 to puberty. And then genital, from puberty to death. Okay, so what is its significance to us? So how can we make use of this information? According to Freud, each stage is actually associated with satisfaction of specific desires or needs. There's actually a need for us, or for your students, or for a human being to go through satisfaction of the desires and needs of each stage. If these needs are not adequately satisfied, it can lead to what Freud called fixations. This is when individual becomes overly focused on the unresolved issues of a particular stage. So it's going to come out. It's going to be manifesting as we go through life. Okay, this fixation can manifest in certain behaviors. So something's going to come out from our behavior just because there were needs that were not met. So let me discuss first oral stage. And this is from 0 to 1 year. And this is basically called the oral stage because the pleasure centers around the mouth with activities like sucking, biting, and breastfeeding. And then what happened? If in this stage, it's not, the human being is not properly satisfied. If this stage is actually not adequately satisfied, it can result in oral fixations. So oral pleasure, and then if it cannot be satisfied, it would result to oral fixation. So as an adult, actually, this might manifest in behavior such as smoking. Are you this? Overeating. I see very common women do this. Nail biting or excessive talking. Freud also suggested that individuals might develop a tendency toward being overly dependent or needy, or alternatively may become hostile or argumentative. Do you know of a person like this? You can ask the person's mom, or you can ask your mom if this is you, what had happened to you from 0 to 1 year. Have you been fed properly at the proper time? Or were you being ignored when you cry or something like that? Now we move on to the anal stage, and this is from 1 to 3 years. This is after the oral stage. So the focus here is on control and the elimination process. And this actually, the focus here is toilet training. So how were you trained? The focus is on control and the elimination process, including toilet training, because it's anal. Okay. If there is a conflict or excessive control in this stage, such as overly strict toilet training, an individual might develop an anal retentive personality. Oh my gosh, that sounds scary. What is that? Okay. Marked by excessive neatness, orderliness, and a tendency toward being overly stubborn or perfectionist. And conversely, an overly lenient approach might lead to anal expulsive personality, and this could manifest as messy, disorganized, or, mind you guys, rebellious behaviors. So, who among you were are very rebellious to your parents? Try to ask them what had happened to you during this stage. For the third stage, we have phallic stage. This is from 3 to 6 years old. The focus shifts here to the genitals, and the children begin to develop feelings of attraction to the opposite sex parent. So here comes Oedipus complex for boys and the Electra complex for girls. Who are these things? Okay, what are these things? Oedipus complex for boys is the reason why we have gay people, because supposedly for the Oedipus complex, a boy is supposed to be in a competition with the father for the mother's attention. Supposedly, when the father is shaving, he should also imitate that. He should also shave so that the mom can be impressed. During this stage, the boy is competitive with the attention of the mother, okay? Because there is feeling of attraction to the opposite sex parent. And with the Oedipus complex, if the child or the boy grow up without a father, in the absence of the father, or well, not really in the absence, like zero, probably the father is working most of the time. Probably the father is a seaman. Probably the father is a military assigned to another place. So the boy is growing up without the image of a father. So during this stage, from 3 to 6 years old, if the father is absent for whatever reason, the Oedipus complex is not taking place. So what happened? There is no competition. There is no imitation. So what happened is there is gender confusion as to how I should act, because I don't see an image. I don't see how to imitate, how to become a man. Eventually, the child is going to grow up into high school and then eventually realize that he's gay. Now, let's talk about Electra complex. So, Electra complex also is the competition, the competitive side of girl for the attention of the father. Girls these age will try to wear makeup. They're going to try wearing high heels. They're going to try wearing skirts. They're going to imitate their mom to get the attention of the father. And again, in the absence of the mother image in the family, there is no feeling of competing for the attention. So you do you, and then you just follow whatever it is that you see. So you see your father acting like that, and then you become tomboy. Failure to resolve the Oedipus or Electra complex can lead to issues with gender identity or relationships in adulthood. Again, relationships. Unresolved issues could also lead to constant need for admiration or power struggles. Who among you here constantly needs the approval of the others? Constantly needs to be appreciated by others. You do this so that you will be appreciated. Because if you don't, you feel like you don't matter. Now look into your phallic stage. Now let's go with latency. This is from 6 years old to puberty. During this stage, sexual feelings are dormant. Sexual feelings are silent here. And children focus on social and intellectual development, learning skills, and forming friendships. Freud believed this stage was actually important for developing social and communication skills. Now, I want you to remember what had happened during the pandemic. What if you have sisters, you have brothers who were at the time 6 until puberty, so probably around 12, 11 years old, okay? And then they were isolated. We were actually isolated from one another. Now think of what is happening to them. What kind of fixation, what kind of fixation do they need? So lack of appropriate peer interaction or failure to develop social skills could result in issues with self-esteem or difficulty in forming relationships during adulthood. How is your brother and sister doing right now? A failure to develop properly might lead to underachievement or social awkwardness, especially because during this time, the learning during this time was through modules in the Philippines. Philippines then was not ready for online classes. Even until now, people are still not fully supportive of the full online classes. So we go blended. And now we move on to the genital stage. This is puberty onward, and you are included in this one. Here, the individual becomes focused on mature sexual intimacy. Whoa. Forming relationships and contributing to society, because the presumption that you already work and then you're already earning your pay tax. If earlier stages have been successfully navigated, the individual will develop into a well-adjusted adult capable of mature relationships and fulfilling sexual experiences. However, if earlier fixations persist, such as unresolved issues from the oral, anal, or phallic stages, it may result in difficulties with intimacy, unresolved emotional issues, or failure to establish a strong sense of self. How is your girlfriend and boyfriend doing in their relationship? Do they have emotional issues, unresolved emotional issues? Do they have a weak sense of self? And probably the question here that you need to answer is, why do people need to have a strong sense of self? Why? If these stages are not successfully resolved, Freud suggested that the individual would carry unresolved conflicts into adulthood. These unresolved conflicts can influence behavior, personality traits, and psychological well-being. Freud believed that these fixations or unresolved conflicts could lead to neurosis, psychological distress, or maladaptive behaviors later in life. See, so that's why we have students like these